Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing something super fun. I actually built a real AI matchmaker app using Claude Code and Inkling, and I'm taking you along for the entire ride, from setting everything up and wiring API keys securely, to reading the Tinker docs live and testing out Inkling's reasoning in action. Let's get into it. I built an AI matchmaker with Claude Code plus Inkling, real app. In this tutorial, we'll cover setting up Claude Code, testing Inkling's reasoning, reading Tinker docs live, wiring API keys securely, hitting and clearing billing walls, matching real community members, building the CSV pipeline, fine-tuning as your moat. Let's go. I am just opening Claude Code here and saying hi, which sounds trivial, but this is actually where the whole build starts. I am reaching for Claude Code specifically because I want to wire up a real feature fast without context switching, and having it live right inside my editor means I can think out loud and ship at the same time. The setup warnings and the billing wall I am about to hit are the honest tax you pay for being early on a tool like this. So I just asked Tinker to show me the most elegant algorithm it knows, partly as a vibe check and partly because I wanted to see how Inkling thinks before I trusted it with real builder data. What I got back is quicksort in 13 lines, no tricks, no cleverness for its own sake, and the explanation of why elegance and cleverness are different things is exactly the kind of reasoning signal I was looking for. Meanwhile, Claude Code is already pulling up the Inkling announcement on the right so I can cross-reference the specs, 975 billion parameters with only 41 billion active at a time, and that mixture of experts architecture is why it stays fast enough to actually... I want to pause on something that genuinely surprised me about Inkling. It has 975 billion parameters total, but only 41 billion are active at any given moment. And that is not a limitation, that is the design. The mixture of experts architecture is exactly why you can run a frontier scale model without paying frontier scale latency, and that trade-off is what makes it realistic to ship with. I told Claude Code I want to actually build something, not just benchmark, and it immediately fetched the Tinker docs on its own so it could figure out what we can actually do here. This is the moment the session shifts from poking at a model to treating it like infrastructure. I am going to wire into my community app, and having Claude Code read the platform docs while I look at the Tinker UI in parallel cuts the ramp time in half. Claude Code has already read the Tinker docs and is now orienting itself inside my actual MakersLounge codebase, which is exactly the right move because I do not want to build a toy demo. I want this wired into the real app my community uses. It found the MakersLounge web app folder on its own and is about to peek at the package, JSON, so we both understand what we are working with before writing a single line. This is the part where the session stops feeling like a tutorial and starts feeling like a real build. Claude hit a 404 trying to fetch the Tinker sampling docs directly, so it pivoted to a web search and I am watching it figure out the same thing I had to figure out, that Tinker and the SDK are two separate things with two separate jobs. This distinction matters because I do not want to just call a hosted chatbot. I want a model I can eventually fine-tune on my own community's taste and matches, and that is exactly what the Tinker Cookbook side of this is built for. Claude is now reading the Tinker Cookbook docs and locking in the exact architecture I need, and I can see it piecing together that my TypeScript app means I need a small Python sidecar just to talk to Inkling. This is the moment where the plan stops being abstract. Install Tinker Cookbook, use the sampling client, point it at the Inkling model name. What I love here is watching Claude do the same research I would have done, but in 30 seconds instead of 30 minutes of tab switching. I am grabbing my Tinker API key right now, and this is the moment where the project stops being theoretical and starts being real. Claude already has the full architecture mapped out from the cookbook docs, so the second I paste this key into the NV file, we can actually fire a request at Inkling with real builder profiles. That feeling of going from planning to live in one step is exactly why I love building this way. I just generated the Tinker API key and I'm copying it before it disappears forever, because this is one of those one-shot windows and I have already been burned before. The conversation on the right is Claude walking me through whether to keep the Inkling matcher as a subfolder inside the MakersLounge app or spin it into its own repo. And honestly, that trade-off question is more useful than most architecture docs I have read. Claude landed on keeping it inside the app for now and moving it when deployment forces the issue, which is exactly the pragmatic answer I needed to just keep moving. Now, Claude is telling me exactly where to drop that API key, and the answer actually surprised me. I assumed it would go in the parent app's .env.local like everything else, but because only the Python script talks to Tinker directly, it belongs in Inkling matcher .env, completely isolated from the Next.js side. That separation means if this key ever leaks, here's the architecture that took me a minute to fully visualize. My Next.js app cannot talk to Inkling directly, so we add a small Python sidecar that sits between them. The web app passes attendee profiles to the sidecar. The sidecar formats them and calls Inkling through Tinker's sampling API, and a clean top3 JSON comes back the other direction. 3 separate layers, 1 clean handoff chain. It never touches the web app, and that is the kind of detail I would have gotten wrong on my own and debugged for an hour. I typed, "Okay, the key is in, run it," and Claude just kicks off the Python script through the virtual environment with absolute paths. No guessing. This is the moment I have been building toward. The first real call to Inkling on actual data, and my stomach is doing that thing where you are half excited and half convinced something is about to break. The fact that Claude handles the activation and sourcing automatically means I am not context switching to figure out why my venv is not loading. I am just watching it go. So the script ran and everything worked, authentication went through, Inkling reached thinking machine servers, and then we hit a 402 billing wall, which is honestly the most honest possible outcome. I had to go add a payment method at tinker.thinkingmachines.ai before I could get tokens flowing, but Claude is already telling me once that is done, just say go and it reruns everything with 0 changes needed. This is the exact roadblock every builder hits when they try a new API. And the fact that the pipe is fully wired and only billing is stopping us actually feels like a win. I added my billing balance and Claude is already retrying the exact same script. No changes needed, and I can see it scurrying through tokens right now. This is the moment I actually trust a new tool, when the only thing that was broken was the one thing I broke myself, and the real pipeline just works. 30 seconds from 402 to watching Inkling actually think is the kind of setup experience that makes you want to keep building. So the balance finally showed $5 and Claude just confirmed it and moved on without me touching a single line of code. What I love about this moment is that the entire billing wall saga, the 402 errors, the propagation lag, the wrong account association, all of it turned out to be exactly what it looked like and nothing more. That is rare with new tools, and it tells me the actual plumbing underneath Tinker is solid. Claude just fetched the Tinker quick start and confirmed we are not missing any secret step, which honestly is the thing I needed to hear after that whole billing saga. The 402 was never a code problem, it was a pure account state problem. And now that the balance is positive, we can actually build the thing I came here for, matching real builders in my community with Inkling. I'm about to wire up the sampling API and see if this model can find complementary matches in real attendee data, which is the part that actually matters. So Claude just verified the env file is clean, 73 characters, correct format, being read properly, and the 402 was never a key problem at all, it was purely the billing balance. That confirmation is actually a huge unlock because I wasted 0 time chasing a ghost, and now I know the only thing standing between me and running Inkling on real attendee data is a positive account balance. The scaffolding is ready, the key is right, and the moment that clears, we are straight into matching builders. So I added billing, made a fresh API key, and manually dropped it into the env file myself because I wanted to be sure, and now Claude is picking up right where it left off and rerunning the matcher without me having to explain anything. This is the moment I actually feel the friction melt away. 3 separate blockers in a row, and we are finally about to see Inkling touch real attendee data for the first time. The fact that Claude tracked the whole context, billing wall, key mismatch, file path, and just continued is exactly why I reach for it when I am building something I care about, shipping fast. Claude is now wiring up the split thinking helper so Inkling's private reasoning channel stays hidden from users while the clean verdict surfaces to the app. And watching it add read to imports and carve the thinking from the answer in real time is one of those small moments that makes the whole architecture click. This is the part I actually care about because it means the model is doing its messy reasoning work in private and handing back something polished, which is exactly the behavior you want when you are building a feature real people will see. The scaffolding is almost done, and I can feel we are one run away from watching Inkling touch actual attendee data for the first time. Claude is still grinding through the split thinking logic, and I can see it has been at this for almost 2 minutes now, which tells me this helper is doing more work than I initially thought. The diff shows it restructuring how thinking chunks and answer chunks get separated and returned. so the reasoning channel is truly isolated before anything touches the user. I am just watching and trusting it at this point, because the architecture feels right and I know the payoff is close. Phase 0 is done. Hello, Inkling.py runs and returns a match verdict, and you can see Claude just checked it off right there in the README status. Now it is asking how I want to build phase 1, the real matcher that reads actual NeonDB profiles instead of hard-coded people, and I am going with both in order, script first, then the Python service. This is the moment the toy becomes a feature. Claude just confirmed there is no real DB connection yet, only a .env example, so it goes hunting for what I actually have, which turns out to be the real Luma attendee CSVs from my MakersLounge event. Real people, real answers. It is pulling the field names and import structure so it knows exactly what shape the data is in before writing a single line of the matcher. This is the part I always used to fumble manually, and watching it just go figure out my data model on its own feels like having a second brain that actually reads the codebase. Claude hit a real wall with Inkling running out of tokens before it could emit the final JSON, so right here I am watching it self-diagnose and fix its own prompt in 2 targeted edits. Drop max candidates from 20 to 12 so Inkling has less to chew on, and rewrite the instruction to keep internal reasoning brief so it actually reaches the output. This is the kind of debugging loop I used to do myself over multiple frustrated runs, and seeing Claude read the raw scratchpad output, understand why it failed, and patch the exact lines is genuinely wild. The model fixing the prompt for the model is a sentence I did not think I would say this week. Now I am watching Claude wire up a proper JSON extraction fallback because Inkling sometimes wraps its answer in prose instead of clean brackets, and this little extract matches function with the outermost array. Search is exactly the kind of defensive code I used to forget to write until it burned me in prod. Meanwhile, the script is already running against real MakersLounge sign-up data in the terminal. 45 seconds to reason through actual people with actual complementary needs. I can see the pieces locking in, and I'm genuinely holding my breath, waiting for the output. This is the moment I realize I'm not just looking at a working script anymore, I am looking at a roadmap. Claude is summarizing exactly where I am, phase 1A done with real data, and spelling out that the next move is phase 1B, wrapping this into a Python service so the app can actually call it. What hits me is the line about thumbs up and thumbs down becoming fine-tuning data because that is the moat. Inkling learning my community's specific taste in a way no generic model ever could. I just typed, lovely, let's run it on me now, and Claude is already firing the script with my own name as the input. This is the gut check moment where I find out if Inkling's matches actually feel right for someone I know personally, and watching it thunder through 452 tokens of real reasoning on a real person from my own community is the kind of feedback loop that makes me want to keep building. If the output lands, I have proof this thing is ready to become a real feature. And it worked. Inkling came back with 3 real people from my community, Tam Lay, Shamal Bhat, and Vimal Kumar, each with a specific reason why we are a mutual fit. Not just keyword overlap, but genuine complementary need. The model found that Tam needs exactly the AI automations I can offer, and I need exactly the mobile dev he has, which is the kind of two-way reasoning that makes this feel like a feature worth shipping rather than a demo. Now I am asking Claude to turn this into a visual HTML explainer so I can show the full reasoning chain, because this is the moment I want other people to actually see. So here is the full pipeline I built, from a raw Luma CSV with 565 attendees, all the way to a top 3 JSON output with reasons. And what I love about laying it out like this is you can see exactly where Inkling lives in the chain. The Python client formats the profiles the exact way Inkling expects. Inkling does its reasoning via Tinker. And what comes back is not a ranked list of names, but a named match with one specific reason per person. That specificity is what separates this from a similarity search, and it is the part that made me realize this could actually be a real product. I asked Claude a really important question here. Is any model training actually happening when I call Inkling through Tinker's sampling API? Because if I am going to bet this is the part of the architecture I find most exciting, and I want to make sure it lands clearly. Right now, every match is pure inference. The weights never change, and Inkling is just making its best guess. But every thumbs up and thumbs down my members give feeds a fine-tuning loop through create LoRa, our training archive client, and over time the model stops guessing and starts knowing my community's specific taste in matches. real feature on this, I need to know what I'm actually working with. The answer is no. Not yet. It is pure inference. The model's weights never change, and that distinction matters enormously because phase 2 is where thumbs up and thumbs down feedback triggers fine-tuning through create LoRa, training aux client, and that is the moat I'm actually building toward. I am following up here because I want to make sure I actually understand the inference versus training split before I go any further, and I am asking whether the model gets better if it was running right now. This is the kind of clarifying question that separates builders who ship a real feature from ones who build on assumptions they never tested. The previous screen already nailed this answer, and this screen is just me typing that question in, so nothing new has landed yet. Now I am pushing further and asking what the actual benefit of training is versus just hard coding skills and rules, because this is the question that decides whether fine-tuning is worth the effort or just a flex. The answer here is the whole unlock. The model learns the pattern behind your approvals, not just the explicit rules you wrote down, so it generalizes to people it has never seen before. That is the moment it clicked for me that thumbs up and thumbs down feedback is not a nice-to-have UI element, it is literally the moat you are building. I just said yes to wiring in the feedback capture, and this is the move that ties the whole thing together. Claude is explaining that the live matcher is not the product. It is the data collection machine that makes fine-tuning possible later, and that reframe hit me hard. You cannot train on feedback you do not have yet, so shipping the thumbs up and thumbs down now is how you bank the training data that becomes your moat. This is the response that reframed the whole project for me. Claude is laying out exactly